Okay, I'm gonna start the stream a minute early today because there's been like crazy lag. I've been trying to preview the stream a couple times today, and I'll move my mouse on the screen, and like 30 seconds later, I'll see it in the preview. So I'm not exactly sure how to fix that. If anybody knows anything about live streaming, uh, let me know, and maybe there's some setting that I need to change. But today I want to start a little differently than I have been. I just have a couple of cool things that I want to show you. So the first one is hackerrank.com. So I'm going to post some links to these things I'm going to show you in the live chat. I tried to just post them all, and it was just one big string of links. Okay, so I'll post them one by one as I talk about them. How about that? Okay, so the first cool thing I want to talk about quickly is hackerrank.com, because they have all kinds of different coding competitions that go on. And I usually don't have a lot of time to do the competitions, but they just started one today that seemed really interesting. It's like they call it a capture the flag contest. So there's three. I'll go back out to the main thing. So there's three challenges, and the reason I thought it was really cool is they just want you to look at the source code for these websites to figure out the challenges. So the first one, I'm not going to give you the answers to anything. First one was actually really easy. Second one, I only spent a minute on it, and it's more challenging, but pretty fun. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, sign up. It just started. You have 2 days to solve the challenges. I don't even know what you win. I think there's something that you could win if you come in first, but I'm not really sure how it's scored. So I just thought it was cool. Check it out. They have contests in all different languages. So whatever type of coding you're into, they probably have a contest for it here. Okay, the next thing that I want to share with you guys is SyntaxCon. I'll be at this conference next month. So it's May 18th and 19th. I went to the same conference last year as the first year they had it. It was an awesome conference. It was kind of a smaller conference, very affordable compared to a lot of the other conferences that I've seen. It was kind of a nice atmosphere. You had lots of time to actually talk to the people who were speaking, and got a lot of great information. A lot of the stuff that I heard about at last year's conference, I've incorporated into some of the websites that I've launched in this past year. So it was super helpful. Also, Charleston is just an amazing city, especially in the spring. If you're into food, there's like so many great restaurants in Charleston. Last year the weather was great, so I think you can still sign up and get tickets. So if you're in the area, or I guess you have the money or the time and you're going to fly down, I'd highly recommend this conference. And I'm not getting any referral credit for that at all. I just think it's a cool conference. And I'll share the link to that right now. I'm also going to put these links in the description for the show. So if you're watching the recording of this later, you can still get the links. Okay. The next one is just the repo for the code we've been working on. So I think I forgot to show you where the repo is. I think I initially said, here's the repo, this is where I'm getting this from. And then I mentioned that I think I was going to make a different repo. Well, I decided not to. What I did was just make a branch from this main one. So this is a template. And I think I mentioned we're going to make some changes to this template that we didn't want to actually be in the template. It was going to be specific to this one site that we're working on. So I thought, why not just make a branch? That's what's really cool. about Git anyway, so you can just make a branch and do whatever you want on it without messing up your master branch. So if you wanted to follow along with the code and you go to this repo, you actually can't, you won't see everything unless you go to the branch. So right now, see here, I've selected main site homepage instead of the master branch, and you can see that has the most up-to-date commit. So there's a commit here from an hour ago. That was my last commit, and there's the link directly to that there. Also, if you're wondering why my GitHub is a totally different color than your GitHub, this is just a custom theme for GitHub. So I use Tamper Monkey, and that's a Chrome plugin, and it just lets you run JavaScript on any site. So you say, whenever I go to this URL, run this script. So it actually comes in handy for testing some sites where I don't have access to the server. So, but in this case, I just really like a dark theme. I think it's easier to look at than the light one. So that's why my GitHub is different. And the last thing I want to show you is the place where I'm getting my icons. So I mentioned, I think sometime last week, yeah, I got a lot of stuff here. Let's make it bigger. I shared the link for this, and I mentioned sometime last week that I was going with SVG icons instead of the usual font icons, but I mentioned the place where I got the social media icons, and that was from CodePen. I think is Andreas Larsson. I think that was his name. His information and a link to the CodePen is in the code on GitHub if you're interested in that. But the other icons, like the hamburger menu icon and some of the other icons that I'm going to show you today, I got from here. So if you go here, you can search for whatever icon we want. So if we want to just an X, you click on it, and then you have a bunch of options for what you want. You can actually check what color you want, what size you want, and you have some options for how you want to load this. I just click SVG, and that automatically downloads it. So I've already downloaded this one a little bit earlier, and when you download it, you can either open that file in your code editor and see the SVG code, or usually what happens to me is I get the little box that says it's downloaded down here in the corner of my browser. I click it, and it opens it as a web page, and then I can just view source on that and get the code. But either way, you end up with a really small amount of code for an SVG icon that's scalable. You can change the color. So I'll show you the code for it in a minute. But that's where I get them from, and these are great, especially if you're going material design stuff. These are the icons that are used with material design, from Google. So anyway, those are just some cool things and some stuff that I probably should have told you earlier and just forgot to. So we were working on the top nav and the side nav the last couple of days, and it's finished. So I'm really pumped about that because it was taking longer than I expected. One thing that we mentioned yesterday I was a little bit worried about is we had to dig through the files on the main site. If you remember, this site is built on a content management system called Electron. I'm not super familiar with it. It uses C# files and this .NET framework, and I'm not really familiar with that. But if you see on the screen here, I found the files that we need, at least some of them. Okay, so if you scroll down, this is the markup that we need for that header. This is the current header that's on the site, the live site. So we have this markup, which this is actually, it seems like it's dummy content. So I'm going to have to take a closer look at this. What we really need, I think, is this stuff down here that has all these strange tags. So I think these are actually the template tags for this stuff here. and we'll just have to figure out how these work. Some of it looks similar to JavaScript, so I mean this looks like a ternary operator, so I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So I'll just have to I'll have to take a look at this later. Not live because it'd be boring, but I'm going to take a look at this and figure out how we can turn the nav that we built and use this to dynamically add those links in. So let's get started on the site. Well, I'll show you the nav first. So it's done. It took a little longer than expected. I think I'd estimated it would take me 8 Pomodoro sessions, so 8 25-minute sessions, and it ended up taking 10 and a half. So not a lot longer, but it was longer. But here's what we have. So here's the new stuff that we didn't have yesterday. So since yesterday, I'll make this bigger. Since yesterday, we've added a donate button. Okay, so that has just a slight hover effect. I don't know how hard that is to see. The slight hover effect, I didn't put that in myself. That comes with the framework, the Materialize framework that I'm using that I talked about, I don't know, yesterday or the day before. So nice effect. It has the standard material design, 2-pixel border radius. So it's a nice little call to action. For this particular site, the main call to action that we're going to work on today is going to be a button encouraging prospective students to apply, right? Because this is a site for college, and college needs students. That's the most important thing. But also, a college needs money to fund, all the things that we do. So we're going to give the donate button another prominent place. You always hear people talk about, the zone, I guess like the F zone or whatever they want to call it, where it's basically the parts of the web page that people scan first. And it looks kind of like an F. They'll look at this stuff on this side, they'll look at the top, and they'll look here. So anything that we really want people to see, we want to put it in this area here, and then this area up top is also a great place to put things. Okay, so obviously we've scooted over all the social media icons. We've added this search icon here, which we might have had the icon in there, but if you see on our original design, it was a little different. So everything is the same except we had the search bar here, and it was always there. So I've changed it, and I took a look at what the material design documentation uses for its search bar, and I modeled this search bar after that one. So I think it's a cool effect. We click it once, and the search opens, and I'll zoom in so you can see that better. Okay, so search opens. It brings in this icon to close it. You can type this in, and then when you click again, that's going to be when you search. So obviously you can hit enter to search, but if for some reason you had a really large touchscreen or tablet or something to where the mobile version of this header didn't show up, we still want to have this be touchable. You want to have some way for people to search by touching. Most of the time the little virtual keyboard will have a button where it's like the enter button or the search button, but I want to think sometimes users don't realize they can do that. So anything you can do that might help out a user, even if it's a weird use case that might not happen, I like to do that. I think that paying attention to little details like that shows the user that you care about them and the site. So that's what I try to do. Obviously, you can't think of every use case, but somebody someday might notice that, and maybe they'll realize it, maybe they won't. But we put that there to make their lives just a little bit better, and make it a little bit better experience on their site. And I think that's important. So you can click the close button, and you see, and it slides in and out. Okay, and I'll show you how we did that, because that was kind of cool. Let's we'll look at the CSS first. So I'm actually going to make this a little bit bigger, a little bit easier to read. So there's a lot of new stuff in here. So I encourage you to check out the repo if you want to really follow along and see what has been done. But we've added in. Let's see. Okay, so here's the search icon. So we already had this in there, but we added some extra stuff. So we had to do some floats, some positioning to get it to work. We added this cursor pointer just so that the cursor, it looks like it's clickable when you put your cursor over it. And we added this class. We added some stuff to the search input here. So we wrapped. I'll show you the markup as well. Okay, so here's what we did. We made this div, we called it search input, and in that div we put the actual input where you'll type in your text, and then we put that little SVG icon of the close icon, the little X. We put that in there. And we added some just basic styles, and you'll see we gave it a width of 0. That's why you don't see the search input when it first loads, because it has a width of 0. We added this transition effect. That's what makes it seem smooth. It doesn't just appear. It looks like it's kind of growing. Okay, and that's how you achieve that effect with the transition property. And then we did the same thing with the SVG. We actually set that to display none, so you can't see it when we first start. Then we created another class here, this open class. And when the open class is added to this search input div, then we give the input a width of 250 pixels, and we set the SVG to actually display. We do display block, and that means it'll show. And to add this class, we had to use a little bit of JavaScript. And since we already have to load jQuery on the page, we use jQuery, and it's very simple. So if you see, this is all the code for the top nav input. Put a little comment in there so that anybody that's trying to read this code will get a hint as to what this does, and so I can remember what it does later on. So for right now, when someone clicks on this search icon up here, the first thing it does is checks to see, does that div, that search input div, have a class of open? If it does, then it's going to search. So for right now, it just console logs the word search, and when we actually make this live, before that, we'll have to tie this in with the search function that's already on the website. But since this is a test site right now, there's nothing to tie it into. If it's not open, so if it's in this state that it is in right now, then it's going to add the class open to that div, and when it does that, that's what's going to make the input appear. It's also going to focus. If you notice, we click that, it's already focused. When I go to a site that does this, it's great. I love it because it saves me a click. I can immediately start typing. And then when I go to a site that doesn't do this for me, it's a slight annoyance because I've been spoiled by these other sites that have already thought of that. So if you could do this on your site, I'll at least be happy when I go to your site. So I think it's one of those little details that just make people's lives better, and they might not even realize it. But I mean, it shows that you care about your users and you respect their time. Okay, and The only other thing we have here is we've added in a click handler for the close button. So we just remove the class. In this case, I didn't even specify remove class, what class to remove. There's only one class on there. We're probably not going to add another one. Okay, so that takes the class away and closes the search input. Okay, so that's pretty much all we did. The only thing I could think of is, let's see, I did change the font weight of these items so that visually you can see the hierarchy a little bit better. There's an indentation. I think I made the indentation a little bit more prominent, and you can see there's a difference in font weight between these main items and then the sub items. So again, it just makes it a little bit easier just at a glance really quickly to tell the hierarchy in the menu. Okay, so that's it for the top nav. At some point, we're going to have to move it over, put it in and see how it reacts with the code that's already in the site. There's probably going to be some conflicts, and we'll try to figure that out. But for right now, it looks good, it works. The next thing we're going to work on is, and we're not going to get very far on it today, but this is definitely not going to take as long. We're going to work on this hero section. So if you see here, we have this image. This is about what I want it to look like. We have an image in the background, and right now I just have a random image being pulled in from Unsplash, and we're gonna have this is the current tagline on the site. Currently, it's actually up here at the top of the header. We're gonna move it here. This might change. I'm not really too worried about the content of the text. We want to get this coded and figure out, maybe we'll want to change this. But for now, this is just a nice placeholder for us. And then we want to have some sort of button that says apply. There'll probably be some type of hover effect on that too. And you notice there's like a parallax effect. So the site appears to be moving over top of the background. And I will at least show you how to do that before we end today, because it's super easy to do, and it looks really slick when you do it, and people are impressed by it, and it's not that hard. So here's what we'll do first. Let's find that section. Let's get down past all our nav stuff. See, we have a lot of markup for the nav. There's a lot of links. Okay, so now we're down into our main section. And I'll make this a little bigger. We're down into our main section here. We have the whole page is broken up into these sections. So you see this div is section, this div is section. Okay, so we want that top section, and I've already given it an ID of hero. That's how I set it in the template, and that's what this section is usually called. It's the hero section. You could have the hero image or hero video. We might end up making this, instead of a hero image, we might turn a new hero video. Maybe we'll do that later on, but for now we'll put the image in, and it's not that hard to change it over to a video after you have it in here. So one of the things we want to do right off the bat is let's make this hero section bigger, because right now it's kind of small. It's not, I don't even know if I would call that a hero section. It's like half the page. So we're going to find in our styles, we're going to find that section, which I'm not sure if we even have it. I don't think so. So I'm not referencing that section anywhere. Oh yeah, I am. Here we go. Here's the hero section. Right now I do have it set to half the page. So the min height, so the minimum height that it will be is set to 50 VA, so it's viewport height. Okay, so I want it to be at least, let's go 90. Sometimes you'll see, it'll be set, completely, the whole page. I think we're not gonna want it to be the whole page. Actually, let's make it 80. The reason being, the current site actually shows, over top of this slider of images, it shows a lot of kind of news items and things. I don't want to clutter up the hero section with all that, but I do still want it to be visible easily, so those are going to kind of go under here. And that way users can still see, like, hey, there's some news right here, but it keeps a nice clean look for the hero section too. So we're going to let them kind of peek up here. So this will only take up 80. The reason we set min height and not height is that for some reason, if let's say somebody's screen is really small. Okay, so you see this is not taking up just 80%. This is taking up all of that space because the content here needs that space. It's pushed it out. So if we set just regular height instead of the min height, this content would, depending on how we had it set, this content may just bleed over into the next section. It may not be visible because it's like under the next section. So that's why I like using min height, just in case. It might not happen, but maybe somebody has their windows doing weird things, like I usually do, and that'll help make it look. Your site will look broken if somebody did have their window like that. So we set it to 80. Now look how easy this is to set this image. So I'm going to inspect this quickly, and I have the DevTools open on my other screen, and so I'm just going to copy and paste this URL quickly so that we don't have to look it up and type it out completely. So I'm going to grab that same URL that I'm using just kind of for our demo here. The same URL that I'm using just gives us that random Unsplash image. Unsplash is a website that has tons of amazing stock photos for free. And the site that you can actually pull the images from is unsplash.it. Okay, so we're going to set background image. Did I spell background right? Background. One image. Okay. And then we're going to put, we're going to add a URL, and I'm going to paste this URL in. Okay. So it's that easy to add a background image, and we'll see. Hey, we've got it. Okay, we've got a cool background image. And there's a couple more things that we want to do. You can see, look, we don't have the parallax effect, but watch how easy it is to put in that parallax. It's so easy. There's one catch, but I'll explain that later. We're going to say background attachment, and we're going to give it the property of fixed, a value of fixed here. Okay, so now we have the parallax effect. Okay, here's the catch though. This will not work on mobile Safari. So if you're using Safari on an iOS device, iPad, iPhone, it won't work. You won't get this effect. I forget exactly how it looks, but it doesn't look great. So what I normally do for that is I either check with JavaScript to see what kind of browser it is, and then if it is mobile Safari, I apply some different styles. Or what I'll do is just say, once it gets to a certain screen width, so once it gets small enough that it's probably a mobile device, I just change the styles. So for every mobile device, the styles are changed. Either way will work. If you really want, let's say, people who are using Chrome on their mobile devices to be able to see the parallax effect, then I say check with the browsers with JavaScript so you can pinpoint Safari. Otherwise, just go with the smaller, all small screens have that parallax effect disabled. The third option is you create this parallax effect entirely with JavaScript, and then it will work on every device that has JavaScript enabled. Okay, I usually don't go that route. I'm sure there's probably a JavaScript plugin out there that makes it really easy. I just haven't taken the time to find it. I've looked at the source code for sites that have done it, and so I'm familiar with how it could be done. But for me, this CSS solution is just so simple. So that's what we're going to go with for this. I will say I've seen some jankiness, and jank is the technical term for like when the page stutters a little bit when you try to scroll or you try to do something. I have seen some jankiness happen when I've used this on like multiple sections of a site at the same time. So I think it is because I'm using this background attachment fixed. I think it constantly has to repaint that image. The browser has to. So if you have a huge page, there's a ton of stuff going on, maybe that'll affect the performance of the page. But as you can see, I'm scrolling up and down, and there's no lag here. There's no jank. So this will work for us. Okay, now we'll just do a couple more optimizations. Oh wait, it's already 2:31. So basically, I'm just going to clean this up before we do our next video and just make it so that this image, you can see that this is not the whole image. It actually doesn't look bad the way it is. It works like this, but this is not the entire image. We want to make it so that you get to see the whole image, and it's not smushed or anything. So we'll just do a couple more CSS properties to make sure the image looks nicer, and that'll be it. And that's it. That's our parallax section. I'll add in the extra stuff for mobile, but it's super simple. There's a lot of other cool stuff that's a little more complicated that you can do, but this is just a really awesome way to make your site look so much cooler. So thanks for watching, and sorry I went a minute or two over. If you have any questions about anything, put in the comments. I'm on Twitter, so you can message me on Twitter. Gosh, what is it? It's just Jesse R. Weigel. So just check my name on YouTube, Jesse R. Weigel, all together for Twitter. And let me know what questions you have. If you really want me to go into something that we just skimmed over, that's cool. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, same time. Friday, we might do a different time. I'll have to see. I might have to pick my kids up from school. So it might have to be a little bit earlier on Friday, but I'll let you guys know beforehand if we do change it. So thanks again for watching. See you tomorrow.